I went out for a walk, and this was like at my heaviest ever. Hated how I looked, hated how I felt, low energy. I'd be literally taking naps throughout the day to just survive, right? And I went out for a walk, and I realized I was out of breath 2 blocks down from my house. And I'm like, this is not okay. Like, I'm 21 years old. Like, there's no reason for me to be feeling like this.
So we start this podcast a bit differently now. So you can see that there's a box, and those boxes are filled with comments as well as questions from my previous guests. So let's start the podcast with a letter.
Oh, damn.
So pick it and then just read what it says.
Be the change you wish to see in the world.
What's your thoughts on that?
Um, I think it's a big part that I sort of embody with what I do is, I think I was telling you before, but it's just everything that I put out into the world, whether it's content, it's a conversation that I'm having with someone that I'm working with, it's what message would I would have liked to receive if I was in that same position. And a lot of the people that I do work with, or that I might potentially work with, or I'm reaching out to online, um, they're going through those same things, right? Because I think the experience that we go through, whether it's health or fitness, it's pretty universal, and that everyone thinks what they're experiencing is very unique to them. But at the end of the day, like, if you had a struggle with your food or with your fitness or nutrition, chances are when I first started, I had that exact same thing, right? So being the change that you wish to see in the world is just trying to put out that sort of information or that sort of impact that I wish I had when I was younger, right? And that's primarily why I do what I do. And I think if everyone sort of did that in terms of putting out the things that they wish they had or that they wanted to see when they were younger or whenever they're starting, if there was that messenger for them, I think that goes a long way in just creating that impact overall, right?
Everyone loves to see the change from like other people, but doing it themselves takes a lot of effort. What made you start all this?
Whenever you say that, I just think about that younger version of myself, right? And that's the only reason I started all this. And even if, like, when I first started my Instagram page back in 2018, there's a post that I have archived. It's like a progress picture of me, and it was like, I'm not sure the exact caption, but the caption was like, "Hey Kagivan, like, you're doing this now. You're posting this picture now. I want you to continue posting this, not just for motivation and for progress for yourself, but at one point to inspire someone in that exact same position that you are right now to where you are, wherever you are, right?" Um, and that's what it all comes down to at the end of the day. It's like, there's no point in talking to a billion different people when I can just talk to that younger version of myself because I know exactly what that person went through. I know exactly what struggles, or I know exactly what went through their head when they face a specific scenario. That's how I speak to anything that I post or talk about online, or even to the people that I do work with. Because if that person can hear that, I'm sure that'll resonate in a certain way to someone else that might be going through that exact same thing, right? So that's why I sort of started what I started. Was I look back, I'm like, there's that version of myself. That version of yourself is capable of so much more. That version of yourself is able to achieve beyond whatever that version of myself ever thought would achieve, right? Like, sitting here talking about what I've done, like, 2018 version of myself was never even thinking about anything close to that, right? They may have had like a dream or a thought, but it wasn't a consistent plan where I'm like, yo, this is a lifestyle I'm living to where I'm at right now. So I guess that's why I started what I started, is just for that, in terms of being able to inspire that version of myself to get the most out of them.
What was wrong with your previous version?
I think it really came down to how I saw myself, right? Um, Growing up for me in like the typical Tamil household, grades were always the biggest thing, right? And I was pretty good at it, right? Because that's all I was focused on. That's what my parents would put me, like, that's what my mom, that's what my dad, they're like, you're the smart kid. And that's what I carried through most of my life. Um, Through elementary school, middle school, like, I was in some of those different, like, gifted programs or whatever. But it was like, yes, you have that, but you still look in the mirror and you're like, you're just not happy with what you see. And I grew up pretty fat as a kid, and I definitely got the bullying and the teasing and all that stuff that comes with it. And that's what you sort of internalize as you're growing up, because that's all you're told, right? It's like, do you need to eat that? Why are you so much? Why are you fat, right? And then you get that over and over and over again. And yes, you might be really good at this one thing, but when how you perceive yourself is so much lower, you're just not able to act upon the fullest version of yourself, right? Like that version of me when I was younger was really shy, would never like go out of their way to talk to people, let alone sit on a podcast and talk to a bunch of other people, right? Or even post an Instagram video and have it reach thousands of people. Like that version of me was never aware that I could do that. I'd always look up to people that could do that. And like, I knew I always wanted to deep down, but I was like scared. I was petrified, to be honest, right? Because I was perceived in a certain way my entire life. So for me to put myself out there, for me to do what I'm doing now, is always something I think I want to do deep down, but I was never able to actually go about doing because I never had that confidence in myself to be able to do that.
What was the mindset switch? Because you said that you were like what? You didn't really talk as much. You were just like to yourself majority of the time. What was the jump that was like, yo, I gotta start now?
For me, like health and fitness and working out and doing all that was something I wanted to do for a long time, right? Like I played competitive baseball for most of my youth. But even though I played competitive baseball, I wasn't very athletic. I wasn't the fast. I was always the slowest kid on the team. Even if there were guys that were 100, 200 pounds heavier than me, I was still the slowest, right? I got left behind that way. So for me, health and fitness was something I always wanted to take charge of, right? I wanted to get into working out, and I would try to do all that stuff. But it took me a long time to sort of figure that out and actually make progress with that, right? Like you hear most of the times people go to the gym, they see results in the first year, in the first 2 years. Like for me to bench press a plate, which most people get in their first year, 2 years, that took me like 5 years of going to the gym inconsistently, not getting right, making all the mistakes. And it felt like I was putting so much time and effort into this one thing, yet it never gave me the results that it was giving other people who would put half the effort, 10% of the effort that I felt like I was putting in, right? So I constantly struggled with that for a very, very long time. And especially when it came to my body, because I feel like your body never lies about the things that you're actually doing, regardless of what you think you're doing, regardless of how much effort you perceive you're putting yourself in. Your body is just one of those things where it'll tell you straight up if you're actually following through with the things that you're saying that you're doing. So in 2021, right? COVID happened, the world shut down. I was doing my undergrad at the time, and it was one of the times where like I was still into fitness, but I obviously didn't have the results to show for it with how I looked, with how I felt. And once the world shut down, and you're kind of trapped in your own basement, I felt like I was sort of stuck with that reality of myself. Like I'd see myself in the mirror all the time, and I was in a pretty dark place, right? Especially when it came to not taking care of myself, not eating very well. I had a very all or nothing mentality. And when the world shuts down, you don't really have much. So I had video games, I had school, I had junk food. Um, there was drinking involved. There was probably some other stuff involved as well. But it gets to a point where you stare at yourself in the mirror and like I'm like 21 at this time. I'm like, if I keep doing what I'm doing, where am I gonna end up? right? That future just looked so bleak because I'm like, I'm here right now because of everything that I've done up into my entire life. And if I keep doing that, yes, I'm here right now, but it's only gonna get worse, right? So there was that one moment. When you say that one moment for me, there was I think it was a day, summer 2021. I'm not sure what day. I probably have it in my Snapchat memories, but I went out for a walk, and this was like at my heaviest ever. Hated how I looked, hated how I felt, low energy. I'd be literally taking naps throughout the day to just survive, right? And I went out for a walk, and I realized I was out of breath, like 2 blocks down from my house. And I'm like, this is not okay. Like, I'm 21 years old. Like, there's no reason for me to be feeling like this. And I remember I went out, came back, and I like was about to shower, and I just saw myself in the mirror. And that was one of those times where I just broke down because I'm like, damn, like this is really how I'm feeling going into the prime years of my life, right? And I don't know what that was, but that was just a wake up call for me where I'm like, I have to change something. I have to do something differently. And I think whether that's just me or it's anyone else going through that, when you want to make a change in your life, you actually have to like hate where you are right now, or there has to be a very strong emotion, right? You either have to really love getting to where you need to be, or you need to like absolutely hate where you are right now for you to actually want that change. Because if you're somewhere in the middle, that's where I was for the last like previous 6 years up until that, right? I was like, oh, like I'm figuring it out, I'll be okay. But once you realize like there's only one person that can make that change, it comes down to okay, like this needs to change right now. So that day in summer of 2021 was the day where I was like, I need to get together. I need to fix something. And for me, that started with taking control of my body and taking control of my health because that was, at the time, it felt like the easiest thing I could take control of, right?
Wow. You see, when people make the change, there's always something big. Like how you said it, it's like if you're in the middle, you're not gonna do it, right? There has to be that push, and that push was that one day when you seen yourself in the mirror.
Yeah.
I bet you were going through so many emotions that day. You probably went like what diet for like the next 30 days or something. I bet you something crazy, right? Probably did something like that.
When you do stuff like that, like even that day, it did even spark the change that I need to. Because I would still do something and I would still fail. And I would like, I still didn't see results over the next 30 days, the next 60 days. But the fact that I had that one day to draw upon is like, I can't give up. Yes, I messed up. I need to keep going. I need like this needs to happen now, right? Whereas previously, like I would have wrote it off. Like if I messed up within the first week or the first 2 weeks or the first 3 weeks, I would have let that carry on. But for some reason, when it was like okay, like I experienced that, I realized like there's no stopping now. If I keep stopping, I'm gonna keep going back to that old version of myself. Like I need to keep going, and it took me from that summer. I don't think I really, you want to say, locked in until the November of that year, right? Which is a good 4 or 5 months for me to consistently do it to where I've actually found a rhythm to what I was doing, right? And that's when it started to like really accelerate and you start to build that momentum and things start to snowball where it's like, oh, like I've done this now. I've created this momentum and it continues to just keep spiraling and spiraling and spiraling to the point where like where I am right now, I would say I'm in the best shape of my life with how I'm feeling and that would have never happened if I just stopped initially right after I felt that, right? But that's what I draw back to every single day I wake up.
Yeah, if you don't give 100%, you're not gonna see the results that you want to see.
Mm-hmm.
But you said you worked out before COVID as well, right? And you said you were making a lot of mistakes and learning all that. What were the main mistakes that you learned?
It was trying to do too much too soon, right? It was instead of working out 3 or 4 times a week, it was let's go every single day instead of seeing consistent fat loss. And I think when you're like in your teens or in your early 20s, like you want everything now. There's no perception of time, there's just now. So you do everything in your power to do things very, very fast or aggressively. And what you realize as you sort of go about this is it's not really about what you accomplish in one day. It's more about what you accomplish over the course of 30 days, right? And if you're trying to follow this plan where you're at your ceiling consistently, you're not going to be at your ceiling every day. There's going to be days where you wake up and you just don't have it. But what can you give on that day consistently, right? So it was not following a fad diet, not following something where you go super, super extreme because you can't even stick to it for more than a week. What's the point of continuing to do that? You're just going to be in a cycle where you keep failing and you keep hating yourself for failing and you don't continue, right? When we look at health and fitness or business, it's about what can you show up and give that day so we can carry that on week after week, month after month, year after year. And I think that's the biggest thing I'd say to someone. It's like, don't think you have to go 100%. Stop. Stop setting plans based on the high motivation that you have on day one, and start setting plans on the days where you know you're going to be at your absolute worst. Because what can you commit to on that time?
I, you know, I've been in that boat so many times because they were like, "Oh, yo, one day, I don't know, I just get this inspirational music or something, or you see a video param and then
Yeah,
a video movie or something, and then you see this guy walking in with like some crazy inspiration. You're like, bro, this guy's ripped. Now it's my turn. Like
yeah,
Amirin for the Silver Cartier movie.
yeah,
This guy looked jacked.
yeah.
Next day, go to the gym, try to go, 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 go. I think I was consistent for my longest time. I was consistent for was almost a month. Then after that, I was like, nah, I can't go anymore. It's just because I just lost that motivation. No discipline, none of that. It was just straight motivation. I was figuring out what gym I should get to, right? Which is the best option for me, right? I don't like working out at certain times. So like what gyms offer like 24 hours. Like I was doing all this shebang. But I kept going, but then I just stopped. And then sometimes I tell myself, I'm like, yo, why do I push myself so hard? And then I just like give up. That's why I signed up for the High Rocks. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, yo, I have to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing as a marathon. I had to get it done,
Mm-hmm.
right? It doesn't matter if I don't want to work out. At the end of the day, I still have to run that 42 kilometers. Doesn't matter how my body feels. I think that's the way that I built myself, but I don't think that's a right way to do it. Because if I'm done this, so it's in October. In November, what were we doing? Sitting on my buttocks, watching TV or something. So I feel what you were going through because I feel the same thing. So yeah, So now I try to do it slowly. Don't go every single day. Don't go every other day. Just once or twice. Do that for a couple weeks. Twice, 2 times, 3 times, and just increase, increase, increase,
And I
increase.
think what you said about having something to work towards, having a high rocks, having a training, having a weight loss goal, having that goal that you want to be able to get to, that needs to be very, very clear. Because I think when people work out just to work out, they work out to just be healthy. They don't have that end destination that's very clear. And that's something I make clear to all of my clients when we first start is where do you want to be a year from now? Where do you want to be 2 years from now? Right? We set those long-term goals, right? And I like to get very specific with it. People tell me, I just want to lose weight. How much weight do you actually want to lose? Is it 10 pounds? Is it 17 pounds? Is there a specific number that you're trying to get to? If it's training for something, do you want, like, I want to get better at running. Do you want to run a 5K? Do you want to run a 10K? How fast do you want to run that? And we want to start to get you into that frame of, okay, this is what I want to work towards. Because whenever you have a vision in terms of where you're trying to get to, the path there is so much clearer. Then, if you just say you want to go somewhere or end up somewhere, because that's when you just feel directionless. You don't know what the next step is. Why am I doing this? Well, it's like if you were to tell you to go to Montreal, if I didn't give you a specific address, you'd probably get really close and then be like, why am I here? What am I doing? Whereas if you're like, going to this place, perfect. This is how we're going to get there. Once you get to that place, what's the next place that you're able to get to? And that's when you can draw back on, made it this far. What else can I do? Right? And it's just about pushing yourself to that one thing after the next, after the next. And even for me with my training and my fitness or my business or whatever that might be, it's having that next step. Once you get to your goal, what's that next goal? right? When you start to get complacent is when you start to go back into that sort of old way of that you were doing things, and you just fall back to those habits and those things that have kept you stuck your entire life, right? So that's why I think it's not necessarily bad to be ambitious or have those goals or have those events to train for, because it gives you purpose. At the end of the day, like that's why you wake up and do everything that you're doing.
100%. So going back to so after COVID, right? Then you were consistent till now, I'm guessing,
Yeah.
right? So how many years were that? Like 3, 4, something like that. Something like that?
2021 to now, it's about 4 years consistently of just showing up, doing the things that I need to get done. Yeah.
All right. So what was the difference that time and the time before COVID hit? Because you said you were going to the gym. You said you were doing it. You said you learned from your mistakes, right? You were making mistakes, learn from. What happened to before COVID? And what happened to not during COVID because that's when all this stuff happened, but when you started again? What was the big change between the two timelines?
I think it was just the fact that before there was way too much information. What gym could I go to? What program could I do? How should I eat? How should I do this? How should I do that? Whereas when it came to COVID, I was trapped in my basement. I did 3 exercises for 5 months. No equipment. Had my backpack, had a bunch of textbooks from university that I'd put in, Bulgarian split squats. I bought a pull up bar on Amazon and push ups. Those are the 3 exercises I literally attribute my life to, because for 5 months, that's all I could do. And when you like, that's something I carry now where it's like when you are forced to do something, when you don't have any other options of, okay, like I want to do this, I want to do that, like when you can only do this and you sort of burn the boats, it makes it clear because this is all you can do to get to where you need to be. This is what it is. If you don't do this, then there's not really much else for you to do. And I think now in the age of, or even before when you had so much information with YouTube and Instagram and social media and all that, like you're constantly bombarded. So for me to sort of go from all this information, all these things I could have done to now I just have this, this is what I have to make do. And you realize, even though I was doing 3 exercises, doing those 3 exercises for 5 months brought me more results than having a fully equipped gym with people that I could go with having all that, because you're just forced to execute with what you have.
You said that getting to your best shape is not really about the macros or the workouts, but it's about your mindset. So this is what you mean by doesn't matter you have everything. Doesn't mean like whatever you eat. At the end of the day, if you want to get it done, you'll
Get it
get it
done.
done. How much did you weigh after COVID, like when you started?
Like my heaviest,
Yeah.
I think my heaviest was like 187, 186. Um, and the way I held it was horribly. Like I had zero muscle on my frame. It was just pure fat, right? So for me to, my first thing then was, okay, I need to be less fat, right? So I ended up dropping 40 pounds during that time. But that wasn't even the first time I dropped 40 pounds, because leading up to that, I had dropped and gained 40 pounds multiple times. It was 3 times up until that point. From when I first started to COVID, there had been 3 times where I went up, went down, went up, went down, right? And that last time for me was like the second last time I got up to the highest weight. I got up to that weight recently, but that's because I did it intentionally. But before that, it was just, yes, you can see all the progress, but it can disappear right away if you're not consistently doing the things that you should be doing. And that's where, when I'm working with someone, or when I make it clear with the content I put out, not just about getting you to a result, because I've gotten that result multiple times, but it's about being able to do it in a way where, what's the game plan after? How do you sustain it? Is what you did to get you down 40, 50, 60 pounds, can you actually continue living that way? Is that version of yourself actually solidified going forward? Because if it's not, it doesn't matter if you do the thing, if you just go back to whatever you're doing, right? That's where sustained success comes from.
Yeah. See, if you don't really want it, you're not gonna achieve it.
Yeah, and that's where it comes down to, like, even when I started my coaching business and I sort of went all in, it was like I was working in person as a trainer. I knew I wanted to do the online coaching business that I'm doing right now, and I was kind of half in, half out, right? Like I was okay, and that's where we talked about we don't really want to be okay with where we're at. So for me to make that switch to go from okay, like being okay to going all in, you have to take a step back. You have to realize that being okay is not where you want to be, right? And I think when, especially now, there's so much information and entertainment and content out there that you don't really get to sit with yourself and actually see, do I enjoy what I'm doing? Is this what I want to do for the rest of my life? And that's where the mindset comes into, because you could be watching so many workout videos, you could be watching so many food videos, but you're just consuming so much that you don't really get a chance to actually sit and understand where are you actually at. And once you can start to see that, I feel like things start to get a lot clearer in terms of okay, this is not where I want to be.
Talking about your online coaching business. So you started online, was that recently? No, that was like what, a
I
few years ago?
I probably started that 2022. So that's when I first started. That's when I started ever working with someone in person. And it was just friends and family to start. Um, yeah, so 2022 is when I first started with that.
So okay, so you started, right? Got your friends, you got your family, right? Then with there are the leads that you're gonna help out regardless. But getting a new person, a new client that you have never met before, that's when the real game starts.
For sure.
How did you approach that? How did you approach your first client, or did they come to you? Like how did that go about?
That was really tough because at that point I had just started my Instagram page. I'd started more posting more consistently. Um, my first client online that I didn't know, I think they reached out to me on Instagram. It was likely through that because I wasn't advertising anything. I wasn't like I'm taking on clients. I just said this is how I help people. I would put out information that would help people, and eventually someone reached out, and it was a very I had no idea what I was doing. Let's be honest. I think that's how most people start. Is you just show up, and somehow magically people will be like, "Can you help me out with this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it. Let's help you out with that." And I think for me to get to that point, there's a lot of working in person. Because when I first started working in person as a trainer, was actually during my undergrad at the University of Waterloo. It was my last year there, and I was like, let me just pick up a part-time job as a trainer here because I knew I wanted to do this. I might as well get some experience working with people. So there, like, clients would sign up and they would get to pick a trainer. They'd choose a trainer. I had like 3 clients when I was there. So that was my first time actually working with someone I had never met in my life, no connection with. And doing that and realizing that you can actually create an impact in someone that you've never met before, that was probably the most eye-opening part. Because that's when I realized if I could do this with this person, I could do this with anyone else that walks in and wants my help.
Break it down to me on your first ever client. So you know how you said they reached out to you and you said, "Yo, you didn't know, you did not know what to do." Like let's say someone wants to is in your shoes, okay? Like when you were back then, someone's similar coaching experience as well. Like they only coach their parents or only people that they know. And someone comes up to me and says, "Yo, can you help me out with I don't know weight loss? I don't know whatever your like
Mm-hmm.
whatever your first ever
Mm-hmm.
client did. How do you start and help them? Like, how do you break it down for them?"
When you go through that at the beginning, you only have the experience to draw on from what you did to yourself, right? So it's about giving them all the information, but not necessarily giving them too much information because everyone starts at a certain point. And I think back then, like, I only had one way of doing things. So for me to be able to help that person, it's like, this is how you do it because this is how I did it. But I think as you start to work with more and more people, as you start to invest in yourself with courses and certifications and shadowing other people, I think that's where the real magic is when you're actually seeing how other people get people results too, because it opens your eyes and saying there's not just one way to do it, right? There's 1,000 ways to do it. but it's picking on the things that what worked for this person, what worked for that person, and it's consistently allowing yourself to grow and learn and not just staying stuck with whatever you did at the end of the day. Because let's be honest, whenever you first start off, you're not going to be very good, right? At any endeavor, let alone at coaching, right? We actually have to work with another person. Like, you're not going to be great, but you have to be able to sort of get through those reps and understand what worked well for this person, what didn't work well for that person, and sort of draw on that and continue to use that as you go forward. And it's not just getting stuck in your own ways, because you've probably seen like the Dunning-Kruger effect, where you think you know a lot at the beginning and then
Yeah.
you realize you don't know anything. Like, I was probably peak at that time. I'm like, this is how it works. But then you realize, oh, like, didn't work for this person. And you start to question everything. That's when you go about learning. I think it's consistently learning with not just who you're working with, but outside information as well, trying to always strive to be better in what you're doing, right? Because that's when you can impact that person or impact multiple people in different ways.
What happens if someone comes up to you and then they don't reach their goal within whatever time frame that's realistic for them?
That's a great question. That's when we look at what have you actually been doing, right? Like I said at the beginning, your body doesn't lie. When it comes to especially health and fitness, you could be telling me that you're doing certain things. Are you actually doing those certain things? Are you doing those things to the standard at which they need to be done for you to actually see results? And I draw that back to the first 5, 6 years of my journey, because I thought I was doing all those things. But when I look at it, well, you weren't actually working out as hard as you were. You weren't actually showing up to the gym 3 times a week. You're probably going 6 times once a week, and then like you wouldn't show up the next week. It was the amount of attention that you put to your food. Are you actually paying attention to all the things that you're putting into your mouth, right? And then when we start to look at that, for me, I'm a big numbers guy. I've been a numbers guy my whole life. When it comes to health and fitness, numbers never lie, right? You're either doing the thing or you're not. And I think at the beginning, you get so caught up with why it's not working. These are the numbers that worked for me. These are the numbers that they say work online, but it's not working for this person. Then you realize it's not about the numbers, it's how they're approaching everything that they're going through, right? And then when you set, okay, these are the action items that you need to hit, this is what you need to do week on week, are you actually doing that? And we take a closer dive into that, then it's realizing you're probably not doing the things that you need to be doing at the level at which they need to be done to see the results at which you need to see it, right? I think that's what it comes down to. And now when I'm working with someone, I can tell when someone's on point, I can tell when someone is not on point. And it comes down to all the other metrics that we sort of track and look at. It's like, if you're not doing that consistently, it's not going to matter, right? And that's when it's having a conversation with that person. It's like, okay, why are we not doing the things that we need to be doing, right? Is it something where we've set the bar too high for yourself? Is it because there's certain situations that are coming up? And I think that's the magic in coaching. It's not necessarily telling someone what to do. It's how do we navigate this to get you to where you need to be, to the level at which you can do it.
Why did you start an online business? Like, you're so passionate about it. I can see the passion because you're breaking it down to like as so I can understand. And I can see like, yo, I will you really want this person to succeed. You want to see them say, yo, I help this person, right? It's like, I help myself, now I want to help this person, I want to help that person, I want that person to help the next person. Just keep on going, going, going. But at the beginning, you were dealing with just yourself. Then you got on your family, and then you started getting new clients. But like, why start that?
Like online,
Yeah, why even start the business?
let's be honest, the internet has changed all of our lives. For me to go from where I was to where I am right now, or even that initial transformation, was purely information online. Never worked with someone in person, never worked with a trainer like that. So for me, like, I realized the impact of what can happen if you are just exposed to enough information. But what if you're actually able to work with someone, not just sitting face to face with me, but across the continent, across the world, right? For me, it was that freedom to be able to not just have to work with someone here. It's I can create that impact with my clients in Australia, my clients in Singapore, which I'm very, very grateful for. But it's like that would never happen if I just want to stick to the traditional route of working as an in-person trainer. That's not to say there's nothing bad with that. but I just knew I wanted a bigger impact with what I wanted to do. I think I want to start that from day one. Also, the freedom of time, the freedom of location to be able to do whatever you want from wherever you want. You still have to work, but I think that drew me to what I wanted to do more than being set in a specific place with a specific person because that impact can be so much greater.
That's um, I can see the heart. You know how earlier I can see it now. Now everything's adding up. Now it makes sense. What's your goal for the next few years on this?
That's a big question. That's something I'm still sitting down with myself and trying to figure out. But I think it's just goes down to impacting as many people as I can, right? And there are so many people. What I've realized after having conversations with so many people, working with so many people, is like whether you're all over the world, there's still a version of myself out there within you, right? And when you realize that you can make health and fitness a change in someone's life, that sparks other changes in other aspects of their life. If I had clients have so much better relationships, have much better careers, show up better for their families. When you can start to see that, it's like, oh man, this is bigger than just lifting weights and tracking your calories. This is so much bigger than that. Because what you're instilling in them is not just a physique, it's the mindset and the beliefs to keep going when things do get hard. Right? So to be able to work with thousands of people online or change the lives of thousands of people, I think that's what it's gonna really come down to. And especially in our community, the Tamil community, health and fitness isn't a very pushed on thing, right? I'd say it's very education, it's work, it's do all that stuff. But when I've looked around at my family members and my grandparents and my aunts, my uncles, my parents, and you start to see the effects of what happens when you only take care of one aspect, the other things start to fall, and you might not notice that right away at 30 years old or at 40 years old, but things start to catch up. And then I've seen my mom take care of both my all my grandparents, right? And you see what happens when they didn't really take care of their bodies to the level at which they need to be done. You got to take them here. You got to take them. It places a burden on everyone else, right? And it's not like that's a burden I don't want to take on, but it's a burden that can be reduced if we change how we look at health and fitness now, especially in our community, to get it to where it needs to be, right? Like if you look at Tamil people or South Asians, like cholesterol, diabetes, high blood pressure. Those are the three big things you hear in every single. If you go to any Tamil house right now, I'm sure there's at least one person with that, right? That shouldn't be the case because it's not the case in other communities, right? And it's not like it's a genetic thing. It's the fact that we haven't necessarily prioritized that to the level at which it needs to be done to get to where we need to be. So I think seeing that bigger impact as well, it's just like there's so much more work to be done, whether that's me, whether that's someone else. I don't really care who it is, but I'd love to play a role in being able to make that impact as we go forward in our community and even beyond our community when it comes to that.
When you're talking about the Tamil community, because I'm Tamil, and then uh, so I have my grandparents. They don't really like, well, before they didn't really like me going to the gym because they think I'll hurt myself, or if you like stop, something will happen to you because they'll read the news or someone like a rupture their bicep or something. And they're like, "Yo, this happened to this person, this happened to that person," right? And then so then I wouldn't go to the gym majority of the time. It's just me playing sports or for the longest time. So then I'm like, okay, yo, let me try the gym. And then some people told me to yo, get some protein powder protein powder just to gain the proteins, right? Because sometimes the mutton curry that you eat, it's not enough.
It's not enough, yeah.
So then maybe I'll buy it. I'll bring like big. It's like I don't know, like 32 liters or whatever. Bring that thing in, and my grandpa's like, "What is
What is
this?
this?
What is this?" It's like I'm a protein powder. You don't need protein. Eat this. Eat this. Eat this. Eat this. And they're like, "Yeah, that's true," but they don't really understand. It's like, yo, it's like extra. It's helping me
Mm-hmm.
in the long run. I know they don't really like the unnatural stuff. It's usually the natural stuff they
Mm.
really like to the unnatural. So I kind of get where they're coming from, but also it's like they're pushing me away from that gym scene as a whole. Did you get that when you were
100%. I think every Tamil person ever watching this, every South Asian person probably got that as well, right? Where it's like, don't work out, it's bad for you. You're gonna hurt yourself. Don't drink protein. One of my videos that blew up was my mom telling me that protein powder has chemicals, right? Um, and you definitely get that. And I think that held me back for a long time as well. And I want to put the blame on them, but it's like you're trying to do this thing, but the people that you have grown up with, that you've trusted your entire life, are telling you something completely different, right? Where it's like, yes, you may want to do this, but that's another form of resistance that's holding you back from where you need to be. And as you sort of go about that, I think the thing that I've realized, as harsh as it may be, is that if you want to get somewhere, you should be taking advice from people that are already where you want to be, right? And when I look at my parents and my grandparents, they're great people, but they're not in the healthiest shape of their lives, right? So when I start to think critically about, okay, like, should I really take this person's advice if they're on all these medications? And that's no fault to them. That's just the information and the way they grew up living their entire lives, right? But if I want to get to here, then I can't necessarily be listening to this person about this thing if I want to be able to get to. Same thing with business. Like, no one in my family is an entrepreneur. Even in my extended family, there's no one really that's sort of gone about and do this. And you get all this pushback. It's like, why are you doing this? Why are you starting your own thing? Well, they don't understand, right? And it's not fair for me to listen to their advice and blame them when they haven't been there and done that. So whenever I sort of look into where am I getting my information from, what am I actually acting upon, it's, does that person actually be where I want to be in that respective area of their lives? Because some people are great at a certain area and they're not great at a certain area. If someone tells me someone is out of shape but they're great at business, I'll take their business advice because they're obviously very well successful in that. But if not taking charge of the health and fitness, am I really going to take advice from them, right? So it really goes down to, where are you getting the information from? Is that person where you necessarily be want to be with that respect of your life? And once you start to put things in that sort of order, it makes things a lot more clear. And I think that the trouble that we have in our community is that, whether it's respect our elders, whether it's the importance of the information that they're putting onto us, we just take it for what it is. It's like, oh, my mom told me this, I'm not going to do that. Well, you're 25 years old, you're 30 years old now. You can think for yourself, right? I think we've kind of lost that a little bit. So it's more changing the narrative of, if you want to be where you want to be, you're going to have to go places where other people probably haven't gone and do things other people probably haven't done.
has the other people's like backgrounds influenced their like what they can do and what they can't do, like based on working out, based on what they can eat?
What do you mean?
So as Tamil people, say for example, my parents don't allow me, right? And I come to you and say, yo, I want to drop weight, but I can't hit the weights,
Mm-hmm.
but I want to drop, I don't know, 20 pounds,
Mm-hmm.
20 pounds or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Has that ever happened to you? Any of your
For
clients?
sure. For sure. I have clients that, if they have kids, they can't go to the gym. They got to stay at home and take care of them. Perfect. I think what it comes down to is, what can you do? You can work out at home. You can make changes to the foods that you have. I've worked with younger guys where they have to eat whatever their parents are giving them. But it's, even if their parents are giving you food, you could still make changes to how your plate looks. You still make changes to the things that you're having outside of that. They don't allow protein powder. Perfect. Learn to make some food, right? Learn to do things that are going to be a little bit different. Are they going to like it? Are you going to get pushback? Probably. But then it goes down to, where do you actually want to be? Do you want to be like them when it comes to that? Or do you want to be somewhere else when it comes to that? And that's when it comes down to, not necessarily focusing on what you can't do, but focusing on what you can do, because there's always something that you can do when it comes to getting you to where you need to be.
Yeah, because that's a question. Like if I don't know, like 10 years back, and I said, yo, I wanted to gain weight, right? I want to gain muscle, and I can't hit the weights. What do I do?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like I can eat, I can run, but like, how am I supposed to get the pumped arms? You
Yeah.
know, like how am I supposed to get the big biceps, the big triceps, without having a dumbbell, without this, without that, right? So that's That's what like
That's when it goes down to, bro. 3 exercises changed my life: pull up, Bulgarian split squats, and push ups. You don't need any equipment to do that. Maybe a $20 pull up bar that you can get from Canadian Tire. But other than, or if you can find a bar around the park, like there's always something that you can do, and the basics can go a long way. But it doesn't really matter about all that if you're not consistent with it, if you're not doing it in the first place for long enough, right?
if anyone, like let's say anyone, like aunts, uncles, even like the elderly people, even like young people, what's a few exercises that they should do like throughout the week? Like once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, whatever. It's just simple stuff that they can just do within like 5 to 10 minutes. You have any great exercises that
100%.
will target that?
So I've been training my 12-year-old cousin recently. And there's sort of four main exercises I do with him that I think are applicable to whether it's my grandma or it's my aunt or it's my uncle. And it's like, it's some sort of squat, right? Whether it's just getting up and sitting down from this chair I'm sitting at right now, right? Doing something like that. Some sort of pressing, right? So that could be a push up on the ground, that could be a push up on a chair, that could be a push up on the wall, right? Or I think one of the best things that we can do for people that might not have those things is like get some resistance bands, right? Start doing some pushes with that, right? Starting doing things that are going to pull apart. If you can just do squats and some sort of pressing, I think that's more than enough to sort of get you to be able to build up to the point where you are doing other things, right? A lot of times we're told not to lift weights because it's going to hurt us, but when you have to pick up the rice bag from the basement, we have no problem doing that. You're gonna have to do it to bring to feed the family, right? Why don't you pick that up a couple times, right? There's always something that you can do. So it's some sort of picking something up, some sort of squat variation, some sort of press variation. And maybe if they're able to, I know with the older population it might not be, but some sort of lunge variation, right? Where we're kind of bending down on that one leg, strengthening that one leg, because I'm sure there's like the knees, the hips, all those things get very, very rigid, especially as we don't continue to do those things as we get older, right? So it's really important, like lunge, squat, press. If you can do those three things in some capacity, you can always bring it down to the level of which the person's at. You can be able to build them up to do a lot of things, right? So those are the three things I would say. If you do that once a week, twice a week, spend 10 minutes, those 10 minutes can turn into 15, 20 down the line, just because your body gets stronger. It becomes more capable of doing more and more the more you're able to push it a little bit more, right?
How much of an effect does exercising do for you?
Physically, mentally.
Physically, mentally, everything.
I think for me at this point, yes, it's physical. Yes, I like to see the changes in my body. Yes, I like to get stronger. But when it comes to the energy that you have mentally, when you put in a good workout, when you know and you showed up and you've done what you could, even on your busiest days, whether it's going for a run for 5 minutes or it's hitting the gym for 30 minutes, you come out of that feeling a lot more accomplished. You come out of that feeling a lot more clear. And that leads to so much more clarity and energy in other parts of your life, right? And I think before, like, I was very low energy consistently throughout. Now that I've worked out, I have more energy to be able to do other things. And I think that's the biggest misconception about exercise, that people exercise is gonna put you down and out for the next couple of days. It's like, yeah, the first week it will. Second week it probably will. Once you get to week 3 and week 4 and week 5, you have more of a capacity to do other things in your life, right? Whether that's playing with your kids, whether that's showing up to work, whether that's working at a higher sort of ability than what you're at right now. I think that's what it comes down to myself. It's like if I don't work out for 3, 4 days, like I feel like garbage, right? Because I haven't actually pushed my body to the capacity I know I can push it to. My sleep improves drastically. Like I'm in bed, I'm knocked out because I've actually physically exhausted about my body, right? And when it comes down to it, a lot of us, we sit, we work, and we do our job, and that's very mentally exhausting, right? Very mentally tiring. People come home from work, they're absolutely exhausted, and when they get to bed, they're not able to fall asleep. Well, we haven't exhausted ourselves physically, right? And your body, at the end of the day, is a physical thing. It needs to be pushed to that limit to the point where it can actually rest. And yes, we might be mentally stressed out, going through work or family or whatever that might be. But I think the benefits on sleep are just insane because when you have better sleep, you show up better in every other aspect of your life.
Yeah, sleeping is like one of the most important things you can ever do because you sleep a quarter of your life,
Yeah.
a quarter or a third of your life.
Some
It's a big chunk of time. So instead of people just like rolling around in bed and waking up at random times, like they feel exhausted for the next day. So why is it worth it? Like, when we were talking about exercise, but then you also said what type of food you should eat. A lot of people, there's a lot of things now that have sugar. I think that's and personally, I think that's the biggest cause for many things. But I could be totally wrong. But what's some stuff that people should avoid?
when it comes to should avoid, the people that are watching or anyone that's asking themselves, they actually know what they should be avoiding. It's the fast food. It's the stuff where you go to KFC or you go to McDonald's. It's like stuff like that you should be avoiding. You know it's not good for you. You know it's convenient. You know how you know how it makes you feel the next day. You know how it makes you feel 5 minutes after you eat it, right? And I think at this point it comes down to like anything that's super processed, anything you're getting out of a drive-through, anything where you're ideally not preparing yourself. Probably want to avoid that to some extent, right? But it's not just about avoiding these things, it's about what can I have instead, right? Because if you just cut everything out, like a lot of times we're told, cut out rice, cut out roti, cut out all your carbs, cut out this, cut out that. What do you eat, right? What's left? No one ever really puts the emphasis on what should you be having, right? And I think that's where if we can transition over to, okay, if you can have this stuff instead, focus on having your protein, focus on having your fiber, focus on having more fruits and vegetables. That way you can still incorporate those other things that you might not necessarily need to have as much, but you actually know what to focus on, right? Because if you're always focused on what you can't have, if I told you to cut out sugar for the next 14 days, all you're going to be thinking about is how do I avoid sugar? You're going to be thinking about sugar more than you thought about it previously. And it starts to get to you. You're like, oh, like I need sugar because that's all you've been cutting out. Whereas if I told my client to, okay, let's focus on getting more protein in, right? Now they're actively searching to get more protein into their diet. If they get more protein in, they're going to feel more full, not going to crave the sugar as much because was it where your attention goes, your energy flows, right? So if you're focusing on the things that you can have a little bit more, I think that's going to be a lot better for you than trying to cut things out and focusing on the things that you necessarily shouldn't be having.
That makes sense because I always try to focus. Yo, this has sugar. Oh, I can't eat that. This has sugar. Oh, I can't eat that. Oh, that has sugar. Oh, never mind. I can't eat that. Right. I'm always looking for sugar. And then after, I'm like, screw it. Today, I'll take a day off. I'll eat something. I'll start tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes. I'm like, yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I don't want it. And then, oh, there's a delicious donut right there. I'm like, okay, it's okay. It's just one. Eat it. And then, oh, I already broke it.
Yeah.
Let me go with this. Let me
Yeah.
go there. Let me go that. Let me go this. Just builds up. But one time I was really strict is right before when I did I think after the marathon. So I think I ate a pizza after a while. And I ate it. I don't know if that pizza was just so oily or it was just pizza in general, but I ate it and I could feel the oil just going down my throat. And I was like, damn, I ate that one slice and I didn't touch it after that. Because I felt that. I'm like, damn. Like that does not taste good. I'm like before when I eat pizza, I'm like, yo, it's delicious. I don't feel that. I don't know what, but I can feel it right now, like how it tasted before.
Yeah.
But like now when I eat that same pizza again, I don't get that feeling. So I don't know what the heck happened because I think I was eating really clean then.
So
And then now I'm like, okay, my body got used to whatever this garbage that I'm throwing at it.
for sure. And it's like, what's that? There's that one experiment where they take like, I think it's like fleas, and fleas can jump like 6 feet, and they put them in like a fishbowl, and they cover the fishbowl. So all these fleas that can jump up 6 feet, they only jump up to the top of the fishbowl, and they realize they can't get out. So they keep. I think the scientists they kept them there for like a few days, and they realized, oh, like I can only jump this high, right? And when they take the cover off, they still can't jump over, even though they can jump 6 feet because that's what they're used to. And it's the same thing when it comes down to eating those unhealthy foods. So if you're always eating that, you always feel like garbage. But that's your new normal. That's what you think you're supposed to be feeling like. That's why when you start to transition to eating healthier and healthier, when you go back and you have something that doesn't necessarily make you feel that good. For me, I don't know if the people watching know this, but Laziz on the rocks, half and half, extra hot, that is my thing. I love that. I eat that like multiple times a week. For me now, I still have that. I'm not gonna lie to you, but because I eat so well throughout the week, when I do have that, it tastes good. But after I eat that, I don't feel very good, right? Because I'm in tune with, okay, this is what good feels like. When I have something that's not good for me, I know it doesn't serve me how it should. So I'm less inclined to have it, right? So that's what it's about, changing the baseline of how are you feeling, being more in tune with how inflamed your body is, how tired do you feel, how slow do you feel, where's the brain fog coming from? Because if you're constantly immersed in that, you're not going to see past what you can be feeling, right? And I think that's what it comes down to. It's like because we eat and because we live the way we live, we're so used to it that we think it's okay until you're experiencing a different reality of yourself. And that's when it's like, oh snap, that's how I'm supposed to feel. Wanting to go back to that becomes a lot harder when you've sustained that sort of new way of living.
What do you want to be remembered as to your community, your clients, and to your family?
I think when it comes down to that, it's more just when they see me or they remember me, they see me as a person that brought the best out of them, right? Whether that's making that change with them health or fitness wise, whether that's inspiring them to go out of their comfort zone and go do something. I want to be that catalyst for change for as many people as possible, right? I think that's what it comes down to. That's where the impact is going to be. Like, yes, I'll show up and I'll be nice and do all that stuff, but if I'm the person that is there willing to have that harder conversation with you, I'm totally cool with doing that, right? If they see me as the person that's not very nice, excuse my language, they see me as an asshole, I don't really care as long as it caused them to get a little bit better, right? If that's what they remember me for, but they're change the trajectory of their lives, cool. Because when they look back on it, they'll be like, oh, damn, I'm glad I listened to him. I'm glad I did the thing that he told me to do. So I don't really care about having to be the nicest person out there, but I do want to be that catalyst for, oh, I did what Kegs told me and it actually changed my life for the better. And I want that impact to not just be within my family, not just be within the people that I work with, but as many people as possible. If I can be that one source of inspiration or that one source of knowledge or that one thing that helped that person turn that corner, that's why I do what I do.
I always end off the podcast with one question. Let's say nobody watched this podcast and they skip to the very, very end. What's one advice, one ed note that you would like to say to someone that's watching?
Whatever you're thinking about right now, the thing that might have popped into your head for half a second, the thing that might have popped into your head for a second that you think that you want, sit down with yourself for at least 5 minutes with no distractions. Write out those things that you may want to accomplish. Figure out which of those things are the top 3 most important things and start taking action towards them. Because there's so many things that I think every single person deep down wants to achieve, but they're held back by, I can't do this or I can't do that or I have this thing coming up. And they just get lost with life, let's be honest. But those things that you want to be able to get to are the things that you're holding yourself back from achieving. Whereas if you just spent 6 months putting in a concerted effort to reach that thing, I think you'd be very surprised with how far you got or how much progress or what you've actually been able to accomplish. Because everyone thinks they can do so much in a day, But imagine what you can do in 6 months. Imagine what you can do in a year, whether it's your health and fitness, whether it's some other aspect of your life. But you can only go out and get that if you put that 100% of your effort towards working towards that. And everyone has that one thing. So it's figure out that one thing, or figure out those two things, and show up as that best version of yourself to go out and achieve that. And I promise you, your life will change drastically when it comes to that.
Before we end off, I always ask my guests to write a question so they can save for the next one, or whoever picks it out of a letterbox. So can you just write it in? Just write a question or a comment. I just close the book.
Right here?
Yeah, that's fine.
I don't gotta say it out loud, right?
No. Thank you for being part of the podcast.
Thank you, sir. This is a great time.
That's it.
Sick.
That was it.
That was good, yo.